Chapter 34. Chapter 34. Scholars meet to speak of music and ceremony. The emperor summons a talented man. What did the messenger say? Tu Shaoqing asked his boy after leaving Mr. Qi. He and your summons have arrived, sir, and Governor Li has ordered Magistrate Tang to ask you to go to the capital to become an official. Magistrate Tang is staying in the Temple of Imperial Favor. He sent to ask you to stay in, sir, so that he can deliver the summons in person. In that case, I won't go home by the front door, said Tu. Hire a boat at once. I'll go by the balcony over the river. The boy hired a boat with an awning at lower floating bridge. Once home, Tu put on an old gown and old cap, swathed his head in a handkerchief, and lay down on the bed. Tell the messenger that I have suddenly been taken ill, he ordered the boy, and asked Magistrate Tang not to trouble to come in. As soon as I am better, I shall call to thank him. The boy sent the messenger off with this news. When you were invited to court to become an official, why refuse on the pretext of illness? Asked Mr. Tu with a smile. Don't be absurd. What? Leaving an amusing place like Nanking? Don't you enjoy having me at home? To go out with you in the spring and autumn to look at the flowers and drink wine? Why do you want to pack me off to Peking? Suppose I take you along too. It's a cold place, the capital, and you're so delicate that one gust of wind there would freeze you to death. That would never do. No, I'd better not go. Just then the servant boy came in. Magistrate Tang is here, he announced. He's sitting in the front room and insists on seeing you, sir. Ordering 2 servants to support him, two tottered out looking desperately ill to greet the magistrate. He knelt down, then failed to get up again. The magistrate hastily helped him to his feet, and they sat down. The court has issued an important decree, and Governor Li asks for your help, said Magistrate Tang. I had no idea you were so ill. How soon do you think you'll be able to travel? I'm afraid my illness may prove incurable. Hence what you ask is impossible, replied Tu. I must beg your honor to make my apologies for me. He took a petition from his sleeve and gave it to the magistrate, who, in view of the circumstances, did not like to prolong his visit. I will take my leave, sir, said Magistrate Tang. I fear I have tired you. All I can do now is send in a report to my superiors and await Governor Li's decision. Thank you, your honor. Forgive me if I do not see you out. The magistrate bade Tu farewell and left in his seat and chair. He lost no time in reporting to Governor Li that Tu Shaoqing was seriously ill and could not undertake a journey. As it happened, Governor Li had just been transferred to Fujian as a provincial governor there. Thus the matter was allowed to drop, and when Tu heard of the governor's departure, he was jubilant. Good, he exclaimed. This is the end of my career as a licentiate. I shall not sit for the provincial examination or the yearly test again, but take life easily and attend to my own affairs. Having told the magistrate that he was ill, Tu Shaoqing did not stir from his home for some time. One day he declined an invitation to a feast from Mr. Hisu, one of the local gentry who lived in Drum Tower Street. Qi Hing Shang went, however, and so did Ma Chun Shang, Chu Hisian Fu, and Qi Wei Hisiao. They were sitting there when 2 other guests arrived, Hisao Po Chuan of Yangchao and Yu Ho Xing of Sa Shi, 2 young scholars. Both of them had white skin and red lips, carried themselves with an air, dressed in the height of fashion, and were lavishly scented. The nickname of one was Lovely Yu, and of the other Miss Hisao. They greeted the assembled company and sat down. I invited my friend Chien from Huanqing Bridge to keep you all company, said Mr. Husue, but he is busy today and could not come to this modest repast. Do you mean pockmarked Chien, the actor who plays men's parts? Asked Qi Wei Hisiao. That is the man. When you invite scholars to a meal, sir, said Qi, would you let an actor sit at the same table? That has been done for a long time now, replied Hisu. Today I have invited old Cow, who likes nothing better than talking about this actor. That's why I asked Chien to come. Which Mr. Cow is that? Inquired Qi. He comes from Lu Ho, and he is a reader now in the Hanlin Academy, answered Qi Wei Hisiao. As they were speaking, the gateman came in. Mr. Cow is here, they announced. Mr. Hisu went out to meet them. Mr. Cow wore a gauze cap and a gown embroidered with serpents. Upon coming in, he greeted the others and sat down in the place of honor. "Friend Chi," he said, for he knew Chi Wei Hsiao. "I'm sorry I was out the other day when you called. I haven't had time yet to read the masterpiece you so kindly gave me. Who are these young gentlemen?" When Lovely Tu and Miss Hsiao had given their names, he questioned Mo Chun Shang and Chu Hsienfu. "We are the compilers of the commentaries on examination compositions you see in the bookshops," replied Ma. "Mr. Chu is the grandson of Prefect Chu of Nanchang," said Lovely Tu. Mr. Chu is the grandson of Prefect Chu of Nanchang," put in Lovely Tu. "My father served as an examiner in Nanchang, so Mr. Chu and I are related." Last of all, Mr. Cao ascertained Qi Hing Shen's name. "Mr. Qi is an authority on ancient ceremony and music," said Chi Wei Hsiao. "He is one of the most famous scholars in the South." To this, Mr. Cao said nothing. When tea had been served 3 times, they took off their outer garments and were invited into the library. Though Mr. Cao was their senior, instead of standing on ceremony, he was very merry, joking and chatting freely with the others. "I don't see my friend Chien," he asked, once in the library. "He couldn't come today," replied Hisu. Too bad," exclaimed Mr. Cao. "Now the whole feast will lack style." Mr. Hisu had prepared 2 tables, and they took their seats. While feasting, they discoursed upon Cheking scholars and the beauty of the West Lake, then exchanged stories about all the prodigies the Lau family had gathered. "I can't take an interest in such things," declared Lovely Yu. "What interests me is that girl Shuang Hong in Mr. Chu's household. The mere mention of her name leaves a sweet taste in my mouth." "That's natural," said Chi. "You are so lovely yourself, you like lovely girls." "All my life," remarked Hisao. "I have admired compilers of the Hanlin Academy. I'm sorry I never met Compiler Lu. Judging by what I heard of him, he must have been a fine man, and had I known him, I certainly would have asked for his instruction. What a pity that he died. There's no more gallant deeds like those performed by my uncles in the Lau family," sighed Chu Hsienfu. "What do you mean?" demanded Chi Wei Hsiao. "I fancy the 2 cousins from Tianqing are even more open-handed than your uncles." "Shao Qing is the better of the 2, asserted Chi. "Gentlemen," said Cao, "are you referring to the son of the prefect of Kangchao?" "Yes, sir," replied Chi. "Do you know him?" "Tian Chang is next to Liu Ho," said Mr. Cao. "Of course I know him. And if you'll allow me to say so, this Shao Qing is the first complete wastrel his family has produced. His ancestors were physicians who for generations performed good deeds and acquired land and property. In his grandfather's time, they rose in the world, but though his grandfather was an official for several dozen years, he didn't make any money. Shao Qing's father managed to pass the metropolitan examination, yet only became a prefect. That was foolish enough. And while in office, he showed no respect for his superiors and simply tried to please the people, talking nonsense about fostering filial piety and brotherly love, and encouraging agriculture. Such phrases are mere figures of speech to be used in compositions, yet he took them seriously, with the result that his superiors disliked him and removed him from his post. The son of his is even more preposterous, frittling away his time and mixing with Buddhist monks, Taoist priests, artisans, and beggars. Not a single respectable friend does he have. In less than 10 years, he ran through 60 to 70,000 taels of silver. Then, with Tianqing too hot to hold him, he moved to Nanking, where he takes his wife to the taverns to drink every day, and parades with a copper bowl like a beggar. Who could have thought his family would produce such a ne'er-do-well? When I teach my sons and nephews at home, I hold him up as an awful example. Pasted on each boy's desk is the warning, "Don't imitate Tu Shaoqing of Tianchang." Qi Hing Shan turned red. He was recently summoned to court to take up an appointment, he said, but he refused to go. "What of it?" Mr. Cao gave a sarcastic laugh. "If he had any learning, he would pass the examinations, wouldn't he? Ha! What credit attaches to the other type of appointment? "You were right, sir," cried Hsiao, then turned to the others. "We of the younger generation should take Mr. Cao's words as a maxim," he declared. They drank and chatted for some time, and then the party broke up. Mr. Cao was carried off in his seat and chair, while the rest walked home. "Mr. Cao was obviously running Shao Qing down just now," said Qi Hing Shang. "Yet he actually showed our friend off to great advantage. From ancient times till now, gentlemen, there have been very few men as remarkable as Shao Qing. Still, There was some truth in what Mr. Cao said, remarked Ma Chun-shang. Never mind that, put in Chi Wei Hsiao. That riverside house of his is a fascinating place. Let us call on him tomorrow and make him treat us to wine. We too will pay our respects at the same time, said Yu Ho-sheng. We too will pay our respects at the same time, said Yu Ho-sheng. To this they all agreed. The next morning, Tu Xiaoqing had just got up and was sitting in the front room when his neighbor, Qin Teng-ye, brought over a volume of his commentaries on the 4 books to ask for criticism. Tu put it on the table and had read a dozen or so passages when Qi Hing Shang, Mo Chun Shang, Chu Hi Xian Fu, Hi Sao Po Chuan, Chi Wei Hsiao, and Yu Ho-sheng arrived. They bowed and sat down. I have not been out for a long time and have therefore failed to profit from your instructions, said Tu. Your visit today is an unexpected pleasure. Who are these 2 gentlemen? Yu and Hsiao introduced themselves. Why isn't Qing Lan Qiang with you? Asked Tu. He has opened another hat shop on 3 Mountain Street and is attending to his business, said Chu. The servant brought him tea. There is no time for tea, declared Chi Wei Hsiao. We came today for wine. Certainly, replied Tu. We can have a good talk first. The other day, said Qi Hing Shang, you gave me a copy of your commentary on the Book of Songs, which I admire immensely. Would you be so good as to tell us 1 or 2 of your general principles? Are you studying only the poems likely to be set for the examinations, sir? Asked Hsiao. I take it you base your notes on the young low reader for candidates, said Ma Chun-shang. Well, let us hear what Xiaoqing has to say, suggested Mr. Qi. When Chu Hisi annotated the classics, said Tu, he set forward his own views, expecting posterity to compare them to the commentaries of other scholars. Nowadays, however, all the other commentaries have been dropped, and Chu Hisi is the sole authority, but he can't be blamed for the narrow-mindedness of later generations. I have been reading some of the other old commentaries, and there are a few points on which I would appreciate your advice. In The Gentle Wind from the South, for instance, when the old commentaries say the mother of 7 sons wanted to marry again, I feel that can't be right. The women of those days married at 20. Thus, if she had 7 sons, all grown up, mind you, the mother must have been over 50. How could she think of marrying again? That phrase, discontent with her home, as I see it, simply means that she was not satisfied with her food and clothing, so she raised a rumpus, and her 7 sons admitted that they were to blame. This is a new interpretation. It sounds logical, Qi Hing Shang noted. And what do you gentlemen think of the lady says, the cock has crowed? Asked Tu. That is one of the poems of the state of Qing, said Ma Chun-shang. Surely all it means is that she was chaste. Yes, said Qi. Still, it is difficult to appreciate its full significance. I don't agree, said Tu. The thing is that those scholars who hanker secretly after becoming officials want to cut a fine figure before their wives. Their wives, again, who want to become great ladies but can't, find fault with everything and quarrel the whole time with their husbands. Look at this couple, though. They haven't the slightest desire for official work. They play the lyre and drink, completely contented with their lot. This is how true gentlemen of the first 3 dynasties regulated themselves and their families, but no earlier commentaries have pointed this out yet either. Well said, approved Chu Hsian Fu. In my opinion, continued Tu, the poem The Qin and Wei is simply about a married couple who took a stroll together. I see no reference to an illegitimate love. No wonder you and your wife enjoyed yourselves so much the other day in Yao Garden, said Chi Wei Hsiao. You were keeping up the romantic old tradition of lyre playing and drinking, and presenting each other with orchards and peonies. They all laughed heartily. Listening to Xiaoqing's conversation is like drinking elixir, said Qi Hing Shang. Here comes the elixir, cried Yu Ho-sheng. Then, looking around, they saw the servant boy bringing in wine. The table was lined with wine and dainties, and the 8 of them sat down together. Soon Chi Wei Hsiao had drunk a few cups too many. Xiaoqing, he declared, you were really the greatest romantic of all time. I'd feel bored in your place looking at flowers and drinking with a wife over 30. With your talents and reputations, living as you do in such a fine place as this, you ought to take a beautiful concubine who also possesses literary gifts. Then a brilliant scholar and a beautiful girl could enjoy themselves together. Remember what Yin Si wrote, Wei Hsiao said Tu. Though my wife is old and has lost her bloom, I remember when she was young and lovely. I consider concubinage as absolutely counter to the will of heaven. The population of the earth is limited. Therefore, if one man takes several wives, other men must go wifeless. I would like to make a law for the government allowing a man to take a concubine, not more than one, only if he has no son by the time he is 40. And if this concubine does not bear him a son, she should be married to someone else. This would mean fewer men without wives and would help to strengthen general morality. What a romantic principle of government, sir, exclaimed He Xiao. If ministers of state took their duties equally seriously, cried Qi, the whole world would be at peace. Then, drinking at an end, amid much laughter, the guests took their leave. A few days later, Qi Hing Shang walked over alone and found two in. Not a full sentence. A few days later, Qi Hing Shang walked over alone and found two in. The plans for Taipo's temple are taking shape, said Qi. I have brought a draft of the ceremony and music to be used and would like your opinion of it. Tu took the manuscript and read it. There's another man whose opinion we should ask, he said. Who is that? Mr. Chuang Xiao Kuang. He came back the day before yesterday from Chiking. I was meaning to call on him, said Tu. Let us go there together now. They took a boat with an awning to North Gate Bridge, went ashore, and came to a house on the main street facing south. This is the place, said Qi. They entered the great gate, were announced by the gateman, and greeted by the master of the house. Chuang Xiaoqiang, who came of a long line of scholars in Nanking, and had written a poem of 7,000 characters when barely 12, which had won him fame throughout the country. Nearly 40 now, he had a great reputation, but he closeted himself at home to write and was very particular as to what friends he made. Hearing that these two callers had arrived, he came out to meet them. He wore a square cap and light gown of azure gauze. His beard was sparse and his complexion sallow. Bowing ceremoniously as he came out, he greeted Tu and Qi, and they sat down. I have not seen you for several years, Xiao Cheng, said Mr. Chuang. I was glad to hear you were living by the Qin Hui River, to add further charm to its beauty. You made short work of extricating yourself from that trouble the other day. I meant to call on you then, replied Tu, but had to leave on account of an old friend's death. By the time I returned, you had already left for Chiking. You were always at home, my friend, said Chuang to Qi. Why don't you call more often? I have been running to and fro in connection with Taipo's temple for some time, said Qi. Now the plan is materializing, and I have brought for your criticism an outline of the music and ceremony we propose to use. He took a notebook from his sleeve and handed it over. Chuang Xiaoqiang read it carefully from beginning to end. I shall naturally give you all the help I can in an affair of such consequence, he promised. But I have to leave home for such time on business. I shall be back in 3 months at the most, possibly in 2. We can go into the question carefully then. Where are you going this time? Asked Qi. I have been recommended by Governor Hisu of Chiking, who has now been promoted to the post of Vice Minister of the Ministry of Ceremony. Since a decree has come ordering my attendance at court, I have no choice but to go. You will not be able to come back immediately, said Qi. Don't worry, replied Chuang. I shall come straight back in order not to miss the great sacrifice at Taipo's temple. We can't arrange the sacrifice without you, my friend, said Tu. I hope you'll be back soon. Qi Hing Shang asked if he might see the official summons, and a servant boy was sent to fetch it. Tu and Qi looked at it together. The recommendation of a talented scholar by Vice Minister Hisu of the Ministry of Ceremony, they read. By imperial decree, Chuang Xiaoqiang must proceed to court for an audience. We'll take our leave now, they said, and come back to see you off when you leave for the capital. There is no need for that, replied Chuang. We shall be seeing each other again soon. He escorted them out, and Tu and Qi left. That evening, Chuang Xiaoqiang had a farewell feast with his wife. You were never willing to become an official before, she said. Why are you going this time as soon as you are ordered? We are not hermits, replied his wife. We are not hermits, replied her husband. Since a decree has been issued summoning me to court, it is my duty as a subject to go. Don't worry, though. I shall come straight back. Lao Tai Su's wife will have no excuse to despise me. The next day, when the local officials of Nanking came to hasten his departure, they found Mr. Chuang already gone. He had quietly hired a small seat and chair and, accompanied by one serving boy and a porter to carry his luggage, gone by his back door to the west gate. He travelled by water to the Yellow River, and after crossing it went on by carriage to Shantung. About 12 miles beyond Yin Chau, he stopped at a village called Hisen Family Station for tea. It was still early, and he could perhaps have persuaded the coachman to cover another 12 miles that day, but the innkeeper dissuaded him. "I tell you, sir, we've been plagued by bandits in these parts recently," said the innkeeper. "Travellers passing this way have to set out late and break their journey early. Though you're not one of those rich merchants, you'd still better be careful." When Mr. Chuang heard this, he bade the coachman stable their horses. His servant chose a room, carried in the baggage, unpacked the bedding, and spread it on the kang, then brought his master tea. Soon bells were heard outside, and a train of over 100 mules arrived, loaded with silver bullion in wooden sheaths. The escort looked like a military officer. He was accompanied by a man of over 60, about 6 feet tall, who had a grizzled beard and wore a felt hat, archer's costume, and brown oxhide boots. At his belt was a catapult. These 2 men dismounted and walked into the inn carrying their whips. "We are escorting tax silver from Sichuan to the capital," they told the innkeeper. "It is growing late, so we will spend the night here and leave early tomorrow. We expect good service." The innkeeper assented with alacrity. The officer watched his porters carry the silver into the inn, and when the mules were stabled, he hung up his whip and came inside with the old man. They bowed to Chuang Shaokuang and sat down. "I understand you are an official escort from Sichuan," said Chuang, "and I take it this gentleman is your friend. May I inquire your honorable name?" "My name is Sun," replied the escort. "I hold the rank of second captain. My friend is Hisao Hao Husuan, a native of Qingtu." When they asked the reason for Mr. Chuang's journey to the capital, he told them his name and why he had been summoned to Peking. I have long known of Mr. Chuang Shaokuang of Nanking as one of the best scholars of our time," said Hsiao. "Little did I think we would meet today like this." He expressed profound admiration. Seeing that Hsiao was such a dignified and remarkable man, Jane took a fancy to him. "The country has been at peace for so long that local government has become a mere empty show," he said. "And although bandits are rife, the authorities take no steps to put an end to robbery. I hear that the stage in front is infested with brigands, so we shall have to be on our guard." "Set your mind at rest, sir," replied Hsiao with a smile. "I have some slight skill in archery, and can hit anything I aim at within 100 paces. If bandits attack us, I need only draw my crossbow and they'll be done for. One after another, they'll drop dead." "If you doubt my friend's skills, sir," said Captain Sun, "let us ask for a demonstration." "Nothing would please me better," replied Chuang, "if it is not inconvenient." "Not at all," answered Hsiao. "I like to show my poor skill." He picked up his catapult and strode into the courtyard, then drew 2 pelts from the silk bag at his belt. By this time, Chuang and Sun had walked into the yard too. Hsiao raised his catapult and shot 1 pellet high into the sky, then sent a second winging after the first, so that they collided and burst in midair. Mr. Chuang was loud in his praise, and the innkeeper, who had looked on, was amazed. Then Hsiao put away his catapult, and they went inside to sit down. After some conversation, they dined and went to bed. The next day, Captain Sun rose before it was light to bid his muleteers bestir themselves, and when the porters had carried out the silver, he paid the bill and left. Mr. Chuang got up too and washed his face, then ordered his boy to rope the baggage, paid his bill, and left with the others. Dawn had not yet broken by the time they had covered 3 or 4 miles, and the morning star still hung in the sky. Suddenly, in the black forest, they heard some men stirring. "Look out! There are bandits ahead!" shouted the muleteers, driving their 100-odd mules to the foot of a slope at the side of the road. In a flash, Hsiao had his catapult in hand, and Captain Sun on horseback had drawn his sword. A single arrow whistled overhead, and the next moment a large body of horsemen galloped out of the woods. With a cry, Hsiao stretched his catapult, but crack! The catapult string snapped in 2, as several scores of bandits came flying towards them, shouting together. The horrified captain turned his horse about and fled, while the muleteers and porters ducked to the ground to hide themselves. Then the brigands drove off the 100 mules loaded with silver by a small road. Chuang Shao Kuang sat speechless in his carriage for a time. Indeed, he was not sure exactly what had happened. When the snapping of his string made it impossible for He Sao to display his might, he spurred his horse back down the road they had came. Galloping up to the small inn, he hammered on the gate, and the innkeeper realized at once that he had been robbed. "Where did you put up last night, sir?" he asked. He Sao told them. "That fellow is a spy for the brigand general chief Chow Ta," said the innkeeper. "He must have cut your catapult string last night." It was useless to repent his folly, but in his desperation He Sao hit on a plan. He pulled out a lock of his hair to repair the catapult string, then galloped back to join Captain's son, who told him that the robbers had taken a path to the east. It was light now. He Sao flew forward on his steed and soon came in sight of the bandits, who were urging the mules forward as fast as they could. He whipped his steeds to take them over, then raised his catapult, and the pellets rained down like hail on lotus leaves. At that, sheltering their heads and abandoning the river, the bandits turned tail and fled for their lives. It did not take He Sao and Captain's son long to drive the mules back to the main road, where they met Chuang and told them all that had happened, at which he exclaimed in wonder. They journeyed on together for half a day, and then Chuang, who was traveling light, took his leave of the others and went on by carriage alone. A few days later he reached Luko Chiao and saw a man riding a mule towards him. "Who is the gentleman in this chair?" asked this man when he reached the seat and chair. "A Mr. Chuang," replied the carrier. "Is it Mr. Chuang from Nanking?" asked the other, jumping down from his mule. Mr. Chuang was about to alight when the stranger knelt down and bowed to the ground. But to know what followed, you must read the next chapter.